Waikiki is half a world away from the birthplace of the pan, or steel drum. With traditional instruments banned by authorities, the people of Trinidad turned to discarded oil drums to make their music. Today, the happy sound of the pan is enjoyed around the world. In Hawaii, psychologist Greg McDonald shares his enthusiasm for the instrument.
The steel drum is really a unique instrument. It's considered the world's first new acoustic instrument. This single steel drum is known as a lead tenor. It tends to carry the melody. People sometimes ask me, is it laid out in a pattern? And the answer is yes, but the pattern's unusual. It's called a circle of fifths because every neighboring note is 5 steps apart, where most musical instruments are a half step apart. But let me show you something. Notice all these notes are touching each other, right? So here's a C. Half a step from a C is a C sharp. Now if you put that C sharp right next to the C, you get this sound. Not very pretty. So that's why they put half steps opposite the note that you're playing. These 3 steel drums that I have here really represent kind of a different type of music that it would play. For example, this one right here is an older steel drum, and you would want to kind of capture the older Trinidad Calypso feel with it. And then the next one over here has got holes in it around the note to make the note ring a little bit, and that makes it more soft, like what you might want to play at a wedding where you don't want it to be too strident of a sound. And then the last one over there is real shiny, but mainly the metal is very thick. And what that does is it makes a stronger steel drum, so that if I was playing at a big block party down in Waikiki on one of those trucks, I'd have to hit real hard on that in order to get the sound to come out. The steel drums do go out of tune, and that's because we have mallets, and the mallets are hitting the metal and it's bending the metal, so the metal eventually wants to move, and when it does, it either goes sharp or flat. The strangest thing that ever happened to me, though, didn't have to do with me playing it. We were playing somewhere in the middle of the day, in the middle of summer, and the sun was overhead, and as I saw the sun kind of coming across the steel drum, it began to go out of tune. I mean, really out of tune. We had to stop the job at about 10 minutes into a 1-hour performance. And I've just had 4 steel drums tuned, and I'm waiting for the tuner before he leaves back to Florida, because he only comes every 18 months. And so I've had him tune these last week, and what he does is before he leaves, he comes back around just to touch them up to make sure nothing has fallen out.
I was finishing up a master's at West Virginia University, and the guy who, we call him the father of the modern steel drum, the man who did single-handedly more than any other one person for the instruments, Ellie Minette, he came to West Virginia University, which is a really, really good percussion school, and started an apprenticeship program. And his first semester there was my last semester for my master's. So I was going to go get a doctorate degree and teach percussion, and I just decided to stick around and work with Ellie for a while. And I ended up staying for about 6 years apprenticing. Okay, what do you got for me?
Well, the first one thing is simple. It's a question. When I hit, both of these A's sound either sharp or flat. I can't tell, just a little bit.
Yeah, this one appears to be slightly drifting flat. You ever have a note that's sharp, you know, and I'm not there and you can't fix it, you know?
Yeah. What do I do?
Just lay your fingers on it for 5-10 seconds.
Really?
It'll go down. It'll stay down the length of a song, maybe 2 songs.
Really?
I think that's a lot better.
I grew up being a trap set drummer and wanted to be a rock and roll star. Lived in LA for a while, but it wasn't happening. So I went back to school. I moved to the Bay Area and studied psychology, became licensed as a psychologist. And then I thought, you know, I miss playing music. but I didn't want to go back to drums, so I took a class on the steel drum. The only lessons I ever had were the first 6 months, which kind of oriented me to the instrument. I have a friend who's a guitar player, and he said, I have 45 guitars, and I go, why? And he says, well, that one's rare, and this one sounds like that, and this one had a certain finish on it, and on for different reasons. And I thought, how crazy, all I need is a steel drum. But as time went on, I realized that steel drums had different tones, and those different tones were good for different kind of recordings and gigs. So at this point, I guess I own about 20. Although 90% of the time I just play one. My wife and I both play steel drums. We're basically a steel drum duo here in Hawaii. And she's a very high-level classical piano player. That's what she studied in Japan. She is Japanese from Tokyo. But by the time we met, she'd been playing classical music and piano for so long, she was kind of interested in something a little bit different. My background is very Western and percussive because I was a drummer. Her background is very melodic and Eastern. And I think you can't help but know that that helped create a unique sound. I don't think anybody else that plays steel drums has that kind of combination of East and West together. I've had a dream that's been with me from the day I started playing steel drums, and that is to have a steel drum ensemble of about 20 steel drum players. I have about 20 steel drums, so I have enough that I could teach a steel drum class very simply, even to people who don't know how to read music, because it's by rote. And we would start out playing very simple songs and do public performances, probably for free, and things like that. But part of the reason it hasn't happened is I can't find anybody to sponsor it. I can't be transporting 20 steel drums twice a week to wherever the lesson is. I need a place. You know, like a school that no longer has a music program would probably have a place that I could keep the steel drums. So part of my business is still trying to make that dream come true. The reality of the business is that Junko and I play casuals like weddings and special events and things like that.
Yeah, that's me. That's me on the cover there. We need my transformation. That's a joke. Okay. This is a Hawaiian song called Sophisticated Hula. They want to hear it. Are you ready? That's ukulele.